What's going on, Dolphins fans? It's Connor from the Dolphins Dive, and in today's video, we're going to be breaking down the 53-man roster, which just got finalized about 2 hours ago at 4 o'clock. So I'm going to be breaking down every player that made this roster, some of the surprises, and some of the surprise cuts. Before I hop into today's video, I'd appreciate if you guys would just like and subscribe to help the channel grow, and check out the Dolphins Dive for the best Dolphins merch out there, like this Legion of Zoom shirt. Without further ado, we're going to hop right into it, starting with the quarterbacks. No surprises here. All three quarterbacks made the roster, aside from James Blackman, which was Tua Tagovailoa, Mike White, and Skylar Thompson. There's still not a clear who's quarterback two, but I'm going to guess it's Mike White if we had to guess. Running backs, there's a small surprise. Obviously, Raheem Mostert made the roster, Jeff Wilson, Devon Achane, Savon Ahmed, and then UDFA Chris Brooks made the roster, which I'm very happy about. Guy balled out all of preseason, and we have a deep running back room, and I'm not surprised he made it, but it was going to be tough. Even though he was balling, I didn't know if he was going to make it, and he did. So that's great to see. But obviously, that meant Myles Gaskin got cut, which is a little sad. He's been here since the start of the rebuild. He's had some great seasons for us and some great plays. But obviously, it's a deep room, and Chris Brooks brings a different skill set that most of the running back room doesn't provide, and that's a power back. Jeff Wilson has a little power in him, but a lot of our guys there is a lot of speed and shifty small guys, and Chris Brooks brings something different from the unit. Fullbacks, obviously, Alec Ingold made the roster. He's an absolute stud. Love Alec Ingold. I'm thinking about just making an Alec Ingold shirt. Let me know if you guys would be interested. For receivers, a surprise cut happened. The Dolphins cut Robbie Chosen, which surprised me at least. He was having a pretty solid camp. He was catching a lot of touchdowns from Tua and whatnot, but similar to the running back room with Myles Gaskin, there's a lot of receivers in this room with similar skill sets. A lot of speed between Waddle, Hill, Berrios, and then Chosen. It's they kind of all have are smaller builds, and this is a scheme that likes blocking from receivers. So you need a little bit of change of skill sets. So the receiver room, as is Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, Cedric Wilson, who restructured his contract, so it lessened his cap hit, which is good for the Dolphins. And he had a great season with the Cowboys. He started last season hurt. I think we'll see a lot better play from Cedric Wilson this year on starting offense. Eric Ezukanma, who had a great camp. Once again, a bigger body, different skill set. Braxton Berrios, who seems to be the favorite for wide receiver 3 in the slot. Shifty guy with speed. And then River Craycraft made the roster, which I'm happy about. Once again, Robbie Chosen on paper is probably better than River Craycraft, but River Craycraft provides a different skill set, which is he knows basically he's always going to be in the right spot in this offense. He blocks his ass off, which is huge. You need to be able to block in this offense, and he's dependable, and I'm sure he plays great special teams as well. Tight end, I would say it's a surprise, more so that they cut every tight end aside from Durham Smythe and Julian Hill. I'm sure there's going to be some kind of roster move to bring one of the guys back. I'm going to guess Tanner Connor is going to end up on this 53-man roster because there's a couple guys that made this team that are going to have to be put on injured reserve. The thing is, if you put them in injured or reserved before you finalize the 53-man roster, they're out for the season. So they have to make the 53, then you put them on IR. They're out for 4 weeks, but it opens up their roster spot. So it's going to happen with a couple players, so I expect the tight end to be added because 2 tight ends is not enough, especially in this scheme. So Eric Croft or Tyler Croft, sorry. Tyler Croft and Tanner Connor, I expect at least one or not both to make this roster. Offensive line, Teron Armstead, Isaiah Wynn, Connor Williams, Robert Hunt, Austin Jackson. That seems to be the starting 5. And then as in terms of backups, you have Kendall Lamb, Robert Jones, Liam Eichenberg, Lester Cotton, and Keon Smith. Robert Jones is specifically one of those guys that's probably going to get placed on IR. Only surprise I would say is the fact that we traded Dan Feeney. He seemed to be a very dependable backup, but he was a backup, so to get draft capital back is not the worst thing in the world. And I don't hate our backups with Kendall Lamb, Robert Jones, Eichenberg, Cotton, and Smith. I think it's a solid group. Defensive line, Christian Wilkins, Zach Sealer, Emmanuel Agba, Raekwon Davis, and the UDFA number 2 made the team in Brandon Peely. Love to see that. He was balling out all of training camp, and he earned that spot. But once again, you never know what's going to happen. It sounds like Fangio's not necessarily happy with the depth we have at that position, so you could see them add a veteran, and he might be the odd man out. A guy like Linval Joseph or Akeem Hicks could be added and he could be out, but you never know. But shout out to the UDFA for balling out and making the roster. For linebackers, we have Bradley Chubb, Jalen Phillips, Jerome Baker, David Long, Andrew Van Ginkel, Duke Riley, and Channing Tindall. I wouldn't say any surprises there. Honestly, I feel like everyone would predict that. Tindall might have been like a up in the air kind of guy, but I wouldn't say there's any surprises there. Cornerbacks, if you guys didn't see, there was a trade. Noah Igbenogany was traded for Kelvin Joseph of the Cowboys. I mean, it's pretty much just like a change of scenery for both guys. Both guys haven't done the best. It's kind of a meh trade. We'll see what happens. But Jalen Ramsey, once again, one of those guys that's going to get placed on IR immediately, open a roster spot. Xavier Howard, Eli Apple, Kader Kohu, Cam Smith, and Kelvin Joseph. So once again, I wouldn't say any surprises aside from the trade kind of was a bit of a surprise. As for safety, we have Javon Holland, Brandon Jones, Deshaun Elliott, Elijah Campbell, Verone McKinley. Elijah Campbell is going to get placed on IR, if I had to guess. So you're left with Javon Holland, Brandon Jones, Deshaun Elliott, and Verone McKinley. Brandon Jones still might not be fully back in terms of health, but it's a solid group. And once again, I wouldn't say any surprises. I'm happy to see Verone made it. But aside from that, no surprises there. And there was a report that I'm not sure because the 53 says he's on it, but it said Verone was getting cut, but then we'd bring him back when someone got placed on IR, but it says he's on the roster. And then for specialists, no surprises at all. Jason Sanders, Jake Bailey, and Blake Ferguson. So overall, just happy to see 3 UDFAs make the roster in Brooks, Peely, and why am I forgetting the last one? Oh, and Julian Hill, who had a tremendous training camp. UDFA tight end, who's a good blocker. Love to see that, and I'm excited to see how he develops. Our tight ends coach is known for having a knack for developing guys, specifically guys who can, like, blockers first. Like, for example, like Tanner Connor and Elijah Higgins have more of a receiving background and not necessarily blocking, whereas Julian Hill, be interesting to see how he can do. He's got a bit of explosiveness to him. I'm excited to see that, but happy to see 3 UDFAs make this roster. Like I said, a couple guys are going to get placed on IR. It's going to open up some roster spots, and we'll see how those get filled. But that's the 53-man roster. Look for some bottom-of-the-barrel kind of guys to get added and maybe some veteran depth. So I'll have you guys all covered right here on the Dolphins Dive. I appreciate you guys for watching. It means a lot to me. Like and subscribe to help the channel grow. Until next time, I'll catch y'all.